Hi friends, I'm Scott Giles and welcome to Power Talk, my podcast here on Facebook Live and YouTube. I cover topics related to spirituality, hypnotic coaching, and the hypnotic arts and sciences generally. If you'd like to know more about my professional work or sign up for my free e-newsletter, Power Lines, check out my website, which I'll tag at the end of this video. Well, today I want to talk about the meme that people are getting more stupid instead of getting smarter. As a humorous illustration of this, I saw a graphic on Facebook yesterday. On one side, you had a scientist labeled 1960, and the caption was the scientist saying, "By 2023, we will have jetpacks and science will have given us houses floating in the air." And then the next panel labeled 2023, we had a photo of a burger from a fast food joint where the paper the burger was wrapped in had the words, "Do not eat the wrapper," printed on it. In 1987, philosopher Alan Bloom wrote a book called The Closing of the American Mind. In it, he critiqued higher education because he felt it was abandoning his mission to teach people how to think. By ignoring discussion of the great ideas of our civilization, by not encouraging the reading of the great books of Western culture, we were graduating students whose ability to reason was inferior to that of 100 years ago. And as a result, society was getting increasingly dumb. Instead of studying books like Plato's Republic or Machiavelli's The Prince or the great works of literature, we turned higher education into a glorified trade school where people learn how to do things like code in computer languages, but not how to think critically. And that may not be as practical as it may first appear. In 2023, we've seen the rise of artificial intelligence with ChatGPT, and I am already seeing articles about how artificial intelligence writes better computer code than most people. So is that practical degree in coding going to hold up well? The jury is out. The reason this worried Bloom is that if people are not taught to think critically, they fall prey to emotional appeal, sound bites, and other fallacies that allow other people to pull the intellectual wool over their eyes. He thought this would lead to nihilism, where life was seen as meaningless and people simply entertained themselves from birth to death without doing anything that truly advanced the human enterprise. I feel Bloom's ideas are a little extreme, but he's got a point. 100 years ago, every student who graduated high school had to pass a class in logic. What that did for them is they learned the basic principles behind reliable reasoning. If a politician said something that was a fallacy, something that sounded good until you thought about it, the students could spot it and know not to believe what the politician had said. But this isn't done anymore. And as someone trained in philosophy with a specialty in logic, I think this is a serious loss. In centuries past, a class in public speaking as well as logic and a class on civics, how the government worked, was regarded as necessary for every educated person. These classes were commonly called rhetoric, and that was where you had to learn to present your ideas concisely, logically, and convincingly. That meant you had to learn how to do research, how to organize information, and to find interesting connections between ideas to hold the attention of your audience. Basically, you were taught how to talk, how to hear, and be heard. This taught you logic and social skills, the ability to reason, and how to value nuances of information. This made you a responsible citizen. Well, in my opinion, far too many of those skills have been lost and are not taught now or even regarded as valuable. My friends, in a complex and confusing world, I think those skills are not only valuable, they're essential. Instead, we see opinion conflated for news, outright lies presented as facts, and information concealed. We see a bogus news source, often in control of a foreign government, promote something blatantly untrue, but then the other news media pile on, trying to get market share by reporting the fact that the lie had been reported. And people swallow the whole thing, hook, line, and sinker. As an illustration, not too long ago, I was teaching a class to a group of young hypnotists. It was a winter day, and so I showed up at the school wearing one of my winter coats. Actually, it's a magnificently made 19th century style cape crafted from the finest materials by a company in Texas called Body Hangings. It's not something you see every day. I like standing out a bit. It works well as a dress coat, and I get compliments on it all the time. So I walked into the class wearing the cape, and the students in the front row remarked about it and asked how I had gotten it. Probably a stain on my soul, but I said, well, I was in my office practicing self-hypnosis, and I regressed myself back to the 19th century, but then I suddenly came out of trance because there was a loud noise, and when I did, I was wearing this cape. Well, the whole damn front row of the students went, really? And looked fascinated. No! Things like that don't happen. How old are you, 12? They were absolutely credulous and illogical, and probably would have believed anything I said if I said it in the right tone of voice. They would have been laughed out of a first-year high school class 100 years ago. In a recent New York Times subscriber newsletter on November 30th, 2023, columnist David French published an article titled, "Welcome to Our New Bespoke Realities." This is a quote. In recent years, I've encountered in person and online a phenomena that is different from the belief or interest in any given conspiracy theory. People don't just have strange or quirky ideas on confined subjects. They have entire worldviews rooted in a comprehensive network of misunderstandings and false beliefs. That is bespoke or custom-made reality. It represents a failure of what counselors call reality testing. That is, stopping and asking how well an idea matches observable facts in an obvious sense. I mean, you can make any crazy idea fit into your worldview if you try hard enough. In some classical mystical systems, people take words, turn them into numerical values, and then claim they can substitute any other word that has the same numerical value into the original sentence in replace of the original word. This is called gematria, and it's common in some forms of biblical interpretation, although even Aristotle referred to it as something the followers of Pythagoras did. I've actually played around with it myself, and it can be fun and clever, and it can be a way to make a point. The problem is that if you do it more than once, you can make anything mean anything to the point where all meaning is lost. Well, without knowing the principles of good thought, without being able to distinguish sound argument from arguments that merely sound plausible, you end up with meaningless ideas and bad decisions. I actually talked to a colleague who was far gone on this. He made a claim that everyone who came over the southern border was really a prostitute. Well, that was a new one on me, so I asked where he got that idea. And he replied that in Hebrew gematria, the value of the word prostitute is 794. And it is, I checked. And that is the same numerical value as the words southern border. And so there you have it, he said with a smile, thinking he had proved his point. Right, and I've got this beautiful 19th century style cape for free by doing self-hypnosis in a noisy office. Right, sure, whatever you say. Friends, I believe the most important thing is knowing how to think and how to get to reliable conclusions, an almost forgotten art in today's world. Hey, thank you for your time and attention today. I'll be back next week with another talk on a different subject. You're invited. It does help me if you let others know about my videos, so please like, share, and subscribe. If I can be of help to you, feel free to reach out through email, my website, or my Patreon channel, and have a great week.